interrupted in a meeting and perhaps you just did not know what to do. You may not have known what to say. It happens a lot. And when you are interrupted in meetings, it's it's a very delicate situation. And in this video, I'm going to share with you what you can say when you have been interrupted in a meeting. I want to start off by explaining to you how critically important it is for you to feel empowered, for you to address this issue when it comes up. Because the way you handle this situation when you're interrupted by someone in a meeting will either elevate your executive presence or it will drop it down very fast in the eyes of many people. And one of the things I talk about on my channel here is executive presence, excuse me, is something that is built by consistency. Being that same consistent person all of the time is incredibly important to build your executive presence. This is a live video, so there will be a point where there's people that will join the video. So if you're watching this right now, you're watching the replay. So give me just a few moments. I do like to say hello to everyone as they're joining into the live and provide them with some value before we go into what you need to specifically say when you are interrupted in a meeting. So there's different types of situations and categories that can come up. And before I go into how you can determine the way you should respond, the first thing I would like for you to do and to start practicing is to be very observant of the room. Being observant of the room, believe it or not, is one of the most powerful things you can do to develop your executive presence. Because if you are able to observe the room, then you will see how everyone is responding to different topics, different scenarios, and etc. And depending on how a person responds plays a big factor in what you need to say if you are interrupted in a meeting. So I want to say hello to those of you who have joined. Welcome, welcome. Feel free to let me know where you are joining from in this big, beautiful world today. If you are interested in this topic, because this topic happens a lot to leaders and to other people alike, you definitely want to subscribe to this channel. I share a lot of great content here, so subscribe. This is the place for you to learn how to elevate yourself as a leader and master those very high level communication skills that we don't really learn about. So if you have questions about being interrupted in a meeting, how rude is that? I know. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'm going to share with you over 20 years of experience on how you need to handle these situations and why it's critically important that you handle them immediately as soon as this actually happens. So I want to say hello to Christian. Hello, welcome, welcome. Let me know what part of the world you are joining today. If you have any questions about this topic in the comments below, being interrupted in a meeting, feel free to let me know. Now, the first thing you got to figure out, as I was mentioning before I had everybody join the live, is that you have to really observe the room. Observe the room, see what's going on with everyone. You want to have an idea of how everyone is behaving based on the topics that are being mentioned. It's critically important for you to be able to do this. This will allow you to be able to respond in an appropriate way. Now, the next step of that is if you are interrupted in a meeting, you have to determine two things. Was this interruption unintentional, meaning they probably didn't mean to do it? Or is this interruption intentional, meaning that they meant to interrupt you? Now, sometimes it can be difficult for you to determine which one it is. This is the reason why it's very important for you to observe the room first. If you are observing the room, you can see if there's this one person who just simply interrupts everyone, regardless of what they're talking about. Or you will be able to see if the person that is interrupting you is perhaps interrupting you and only you. You will not be able to figure this out unless you really take time to observe the room and see what's going on. So you may be wondering, well, okay, now I know. Observe the room, and I need to figure out if this person is doing this unintentionally or intentionally. So if the person is interrupting you unintentionally, a lot of times these type of individuals are just excited about their job. They're excited about the role that they're in. They're just so excited they don't know what they want to say. They don't know what they want to do. Before I continue, Marian Mari, hello, good evening. How are you? I'm doing fantastically well today. Marian, thank you for being here. Let me know what part of the world you are joining today, and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you like this content. And if you have questions specifically about being interrupted in a meeting or anything leadership related in terms of how you're communicating, put them in the comments below. So as I'm waiting for responses there, I was saying that you have to figure out if this person is unintentional. If this is an unintentional interruption in a meeting to you, then you want to keep in mind, as I mentioned, they may just be really excited. They may just be really excited about the meeting. They may be excited about being there, and they may just have that nervous energy to where they just talk quite a bit, and they just interrupt people. Now, regardless of what interruption it is, whether it's intentional or unintentional, you have to handle it fast, extremely fast, because you are in a very public setting and everyone is going to look at you. Everyone is going to notice that this person just interrupted you, and they're going to look to you and say, I wonder how she's going to handle this, or I wonder how he's going to handle this. They are looking to you, so you have to do something. If you do nothing, your executive presence already just took a huge hit and will decrease in front of the eyes of everyone in the room. So it is so important for you to be able to say these words specifically. So let's say we got the unintentional person. The person that's excited, they just interrupt everybody. You notice, you observe the room, and you see they're just interrupting everybody. It has nothing to do with you personally. That's just how they are. They're just excited, or they may just be rude. Who knows? The way you want to respond to those individuals is by saying the following. But we're going to say the same thing to the intentional person, but our tone of voice is going to change. So the first thing that you will say is, "Excuse me, I was still speaking." And the way you say it really means a lot. So my tone of voice was still very friendly. I didn't lower my voice. I didn't decrease the volume of my voice at all. I said, "Excuse me, I'm still speaking." And even when you say, "Excuse me," if you lift and do a very slight inflection of your voice to say, "Excuse me," it sounds more polite. And you are saying this in a way to the person who is unintentionally interrupting you. You are basically saying, "Okay, you're speaking, but excuse me, I'm still talking." You can also add a smile to it as well. That continues to add the warmth and politeness to it. You still have to check them. The check means, "Excuse me, I'm still speaking." But if you can say it in such a way to where it sounds polite, but it's still a very polite check, "Okay, I'm speaking, please don't do that," the person will respond typically in a way to where they say, oh gosh, I'm so sorry about that. Go ahead and finish. And they'll let you finish what you are having to say. So that's one way you can address if you are interrupted in a meeting. Now, let's go to the opposite side. What if someone is purposely, intentionally interrupting you? Now, those are the tricky ones. Let me know in the comments below if you have ever been in a meeting where someone intentionally interrupted you. I have been in those meetings. Let me know in the comments below. I know I'm not the only leader that has experienced this. I know many of us have in different levels of our journey. Of course, my main focus I talk to is women in leadership, but I have a lot of people on my audience here that are in different target audiences. There may not be in the women in leadership category, but I know if you're watching this video, you're incredibly passionate about being a leader. So I'm glad you're here. But let me know if you've ever been intentionally interrupted in a meeting. I'm curious to know. So what do? So we have this person who we have observed. Let's say we observe them. We've watched how they're interacting with everyone, and you see that they're not really interrupting everyone like the unintentional person. They are just interrupting you. Now, there may be a reason why. There may be some dynamics there. They may be trying to pull a point. Who knows? However, what you can do in these type of situations is to say, excuse me, I am still speaking, but your tone of voice needs to go lower. Okay, so let's practice. And I see something in the chat. I'm going to read over it in just a second. So you could say this, excuse me, I'm still speaking. And the way you say it, you need to use that big voice. You need to take a breath before you say it. It doesn't have to be a big breath, but breath enough to where when you speak, you're speaking out with volume, not excuse me, I was still speaking. No, you need to speak in a way to where the room is going to hear you. Like your voice is filling up the room. You don't need to yell, but you need to say it in a very deep, authoritative type of way. Excuse me, I was still speaking. Now, remember, at the very beginning, or a few moments ago, I mentioned to you, if it's someone that is unintentionally doing it, you can add a smile to your excuse me. However, if you have someone that is intentionally, you can tell they're intentionally interrupting you, the smile needs to not be there. It needs to be straight-faced, no smile. That will help set that tone. Also, where that individual will either say, I'm sorry, or what happens if they continue? If they continue, if you want me to go into that, let me know, because that's a different level of conversation. We could talk about that for a little bit. So before I go into it, let me go into the chat and see what was said. Okay, so Marion said, when I have a heated discussion with my friends, they always interrupt me and don't let me finish talking. Okay, so let's see. And she also said, what if they get upset when I say this? They'll think I'm a snob if I talk to you in this tone. Okay, so Marion, those are some really fantastic questions, and I appreciate you bringing those up. So let's go through each one by one, because if you're asking these questions, a lot of people probably want to know the same type of thing. So if you're having a heated discussion with your friends, first let's figure out, why is it heated? You know, like what's going on? Is there anything that we can do in terms of how we communicate and how we speak to turn the heat down in the discussion? So one of the ways that I teach my clients in executive strategy sessions or in our program, The Real Executive Woman, is to speak in a very calm voice. Sometimes, Marian, it's extremely difficult to do that if it's a very heated discussion and you are emotionally charged. It is hard to do. However, every situation that comes up like that is an opportunity for you to be able to display your executive presence and to be that leader that speaks in a calm way, regardless if it's sunshine outside or if it's thunderstorms outside, or and all this kind of things. So try to turn the volume, try to turn the heat down in the discussion first. So lower your voice, not whisper, but maybe not speak in a very elevated tone, because most of the times if it's a heated discussion, heated means it's getting hot. And if it's hot, you're going to, oh my gosh, it's hot. Your voice is going to be louder, and more than likely in the discussion you have, people's voices are going to elevate it. So if you're the person that cannot be the elevated person speaking, and you're the person that is speaking in a calm way, automatically it gets to the point where you can be that person that is able to sound in a more calm type of way. Now, when these situations happen, like for instance, when you talk about your friends, they interrupt you when you're speaking, this is somewhat going into what I mentioned to you before. So it's a bit different in a setting where, let's say, you're working with other leaders, but if you're working with your friends, if they're talking over you, then that's just being rude and disrespectful. And so you have to make that determination in terms of, well, how do I want to handle this? Do I really need to be in the company of this person? That's first of all. Is this somebody you want to be around that's going to just constantly interrupt you and talk over you? That's one thing that's a bit separate than what we're talking about, but it's something I want you to think about, okay, if you're in situations like this. You don't want to live in stressful situations where it's like heated discussions, people talking over you. That's not necessarily the way to go. However, if that happens, I would say it in a way where you say, excuse me, I'm still speaking. And you determine if you feel like this person is purposely you have to determine, are they doing this intentionally, meaning they're trying to talk over you, or are they doing this unintentionally and they're just excited? They're just like really excited. They want to talk. You have to determine that. I still would use the same strategy I mentioned to you earlier in terms of saying, excuse me, I am still speaking, regardless of what type of way they are interrupting you. But you need to determine if you want to do the smile or if you want to do the straight face. So you have to determine that. You kind of have to figure out, like, what is this purposeful, or are they doing this on accident? So I would start there. And if they don't let you finish talking, then you have to make the determination, do you still want to be a part of the conversation? I don't have the answer for that. But if you feel like it's unintentional, then it may be something that you have to redirect and say, okay, excuse me, I'm still speaking. And if they still try to keep talking over you, you could say, well, I do want to continue this conversation, but if you're not going to let me speak, then maybe we need to talk about this another day. And I would leave it at that, because ultimately your time is precious, and so is everybody else's. And if we're going to have an unproductive conversation, then maybe it's not the right day. Maybe they're having an off day, who knows? But ultimately, you want to be very protective of your energy and how things are happening. Life happens anyways. But if you are having to put yourself in a situation where you feel like you have to argue with people about just trying to have a conversation, then it may not be the best use of your time, and it may not be the best use of your energy. You sound very intelligent, so I'm sure you have many other things you're working on that you could probably be doing without your friends talking over you. So you have to figure out, Miriam, is this intentional or is this unintentional? Are they doing it on purpose or are they doing it on accident? And depending on how they're doing it, that's why I would use a smile, or I would use the straight face, and I would go from there. And then you make that determination if you want to continue the conversation or not. And you have to be empowered enough to make that decision. Sometimes with friends, you may feel like you just want to be a part of the conversation and you feel like you can't just leave. But I will share with you, if you can start mastering these skills now, depending on kind of where you are in your journey in life, it will serve you so incredibly well as you are advancing in your careers to become that leader that we need in the world today. We need leaders that are going to be able to know when they need to continue a conversation and know when the conversation is done, when we need to stop this conversation and go from there. So I hope that answers your question, to give you some insight there. Let's go to your next one. So the next one, she said, what if they get upset when I say this? They get upset. There has to come a point in time where if you have somebody that is constantly interrupting you, there has to come a point where you have to say, no, this is not okay. And sometimes, depending on your scenario, they may genuinely, honestly, may not even know that they are interrupting you. Typically, when people interrupt you speaking, if they're doing it unintentionally, so I'm saying that your friends may be unintentional, who knows? But if they were doing it unintentionally, majority of the time, they interrupt you because they're not actually listening to you. They're not. If someone's interrupting you constantly, they are not listening to you. So do you want to have a conversation with someone that's not listening to you? Because if they were listening to you, then they would pause and stop talking and use their ears to listen to what you have to say. If they are not doing that, then they are doing this. They're not listening to what you have to say, and they're just talking. And so that means whatever you're saying, they are not listening to it. So you have to make that determination as to, do you want to be in this type of setting anymore? Do you need to try to have these conversations at a later time? Maybe they're tired, maybe they're stressed, maybe they have a lot going on, and that's fine. We all have life that happens. However, we as individuals, as leaders, have to make the determination in terms of what are we willing to put up with and what are we not willing to put up with. And as I was mentioning earlier, these are skills that a lot of people don't master. Even as they have been leaders for years and years, they don't master. And I can share with you my personal story when I had someone interrupt me in a meeting. And this person that interrupted me was at senior leadership level, just like I was. And so it's not necessarily age dependent, this is just how the people think. This is how they think. But this person did it unintentionally. And I had to check that person and say, excuse me, I was still speaking. And they did it because they were just so excited that they wanted to just say whatever they had to say, and they weren't really listening. They just wanted to say what they had to say and not listen to what everybody else has to say. You still have to check people that are like that. Okay, so let me see what else is in the chat. Okay, Marion said, okay, thanks for the advice. You are wonderful. I will try it with you to see their reaction. Yes. So, well, I appreciate that very kind comment, Marion. That's very, very, very kind of you. But yes, so at the very beginning, if you didn't hear what I said, or you may have joined the live a little bit later, being able to observe is so important. This is the most powerful skill that anyone that is trying to be a leader can master. You have to put yourself in a situation where it's like, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. You almost have to freeze yourself in time in such a way to where you are still very present, but your observation of other people is at a heightened level where you can see what's going on with them. Their body language will show you what their mouth does not want to say. So sometimes you may see people fidget their hands, they may scratch their head, they may rub their chin, they may put their hands on their face, they may kind of squint their eyebrows and make a frown. When you get to that level, and that's what I teach my audience here on YouTube, and that's the clients I work with, I help them to get to that next level of how they communicate, to develop their executive presence and be able to master these very elite communication skills. You will be able to pick up quickly, Marion, this person is really upset. And if they're really upset, then I need to turn my voice down, or I need to stop this conversation right now. And this is something that I have personally experienced in very friendly conversations and very contentious conversations. I have been in the C-suite role, director role, manager role, supervisor role for over 20 years. And so I've been able to pay attention to those red flags, as I tell my coworkers and etc., that you have to pay attention to when something is about to escalate. So when something's about to go to that very heated discussion that we talked at the very beginning of your questions, you should be able to pick up on that. Okay, there's little things that happen when the heated discussion happens. Person probably might start taking breaths, or they may start raising their voice, or they may start moving their head, or they may start moving their body. You have to freeze yourself in time and just pay attention and just observe and see, okay, I saw this person just move their eye like that. This is about to escalate really quickly. Let me turn this down, or let me have somewhere I need to go. One of the two. So you have to really observe. And yes, I want to know from you, let me know how that reaction goes the next time. And you just play things as very neutral, very calm as possible. You don't necessarily need to put gas on fire, as we would say. You just be your very calm self and know and empower yourself to know that you may need to leave the conversation. It may need to be a conversation where, this is not going where we like for it to go, or if you have a lot of things going on, then maybe we could talk it another day. And it's just the way you have it. There's a lot of videos I have on my channel. There's actually a longer live I just did last Friday, I believe. It's an hour and a half, where we just talked about difficult conversations. So it's a great video to check out. If you've been in those difficult conversations sometimes in terms of how to handle it, I talk about my personal situations that help me to be able to share my experiences with you so that you can manage difficult conversations with ease. But it's something that you have to be able to just communicate in a very polite way. If you communicate in a polite way with a smile, you are doing what you can to turn that heat down, as we mentioned in the conversation. So I'd be curious to see what their reaction is also. Hopefully, you are able to pick up on the reactions early, very early in the conversation. And when this happens, you may need to say, excuse me, I'm speaking, smile, or straight face, one of the two. And if they decide to continue talking over you, you can say, I know you probably have a lot going on right now. I understand you might be stressed. Let's maybe have a conversation at another time when you feel like you're able to kind of listen to what I have to say. Does that sound okay? And then they may say, oh, I'm just so sorry. I just got a lot going on. whatever else they may have to talk about. So just keep in mind, it's just the way you say it. People can say the same thing, but it's the way you communicate it, the way you say it is what makes the difference. That is what will make you be a average leader or an exceptional, extraordinary leader, by the way that you actually speak. So I hope that helps you. Let me know, Marion, how that goes. Okay, Marion said, you are wonderful and beautiful. Thank you very much for the advice. You are wonderful. Keep it up. Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate that, Marion. Appreciate that so much. And I hope you're able to join us. Subscribe to the channel. Feel free to ask any questions. I have a lot of videos here, especially on my live streams, where I talk about different topics as it relates to leadership, communication, being a woman in leadership, and just general leadership topics as a whole. My main focus is working with women in leadership. However, I have a lot of people on my channel that are not in that category of women in leadership, but I'm here to support them also because I know that they are passionate about how they're communicating and they want to go to that next level in their careers. So feel free to subscribe, ask any questions if you have any. Alrighty, Christian, welcome back. Hello again. All right, so if any of you have any questions, let me know. Really appreciate Marion and Christian being present. Marion, I appreciate your dialogue. You asked some really fantastic questions as it relates to being interrupted in a meeting. And I appreciate that because your specific questions will help a lot of other people figure out how they want to adapt and answer these type of situations and respond to them when they come up. So for those of you who are just now joining, I want to very quickly go over what we talked about today. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any questions in the chat, let me know. If you're watching the replay, let me know. I will answer any questions you have as it relates to those very challenging conversations you may have when someone is interrupting you. So what we talked about initially as a summary for those of you who are joining is a couple of things. So when you are in a meeting and someone is interrupting you, we have to go backwards in time, because the first thing that we need to do, and keep this in mind with any meeting that you are having, is develop your executive presence by observing. This is one of the most powerful, best things that you can do if you are really serious about leadership. And you are serious about developing your executive presence, because executive presence is how you are able to impact the world, generate additional income, elevate your career, all those things. So you want to observe the room, because if you observe the room and you consistently see, let's say, this person interrupting everyone, then that tells you how you need to handle the situation. If you happen to see this person never interrupts anyone, but just so happens to interrupt you in a meeting, then you have to think about how it is that you want to respond. So first you want to observe the room, see what's going on, observe people's reactions, really be quiet, be silent. Just observe. Now, if there's something that you need to personally say, then absolutely you need to speak up. But for the most part, say something when you really need to say something. Now, when you're at that point and you actually have said something, then that's where we go into the interruption. You have to determine if this person that is interrupting you in the meeting is doing it intentionally, meaning they are doing it on purpose, or they are doing it unintentionally, meaning that they are not doing it on purpose. We talked about this in the live in terms of what this looks like, what you can expect. So if you're just joining, definitely want to check out the live and see what we talked about. But as a highlight, you're going to have people that are going to interrupt you by accident. They may just not know any better. They know better, but they just act like they don't know any better. Or they may just be very excited and they just want to talk. I've seen this many times. And the way you deal with them is a bit differently than if someone is intentionally trying to interrupt you. For example, if someone is unintentionally interrupting you, you want to say, "Excuse me, I'm still speaking." You can say it in a very polite voice with a smile, because you are showing that person in the room that you are giving them a check to say, basically, okay, you just interrupted me. Stop that, please. I'm still speaking. But you're still saying it in a way that is very polite and very friendly. Now, if the person is intentionally interrupting you, then in that case, what you'll need to do is you can say the same thing, but in a different tone of voice. So the tone of voice you want to use is, excuse me, I'm still speaking. You have to take a breath and make sure you are speaking with volume. You don't need to yell, you don't need to scream, but you need to speak in a way to where your voice is absolutely going to be heard. People will turn their head. They will look and say, oh, okay. And either that person is going to say, oh, I'm sorry, or that person may try to banter with you. And that's a little bit about what we were talking about with Marion earlier. So it just depends on if it's intentional or unintentional in terms of if the interruption takes place in a meeting and what you say. If you want me to go through more things that you can say, because I've been in banters, I've been in those situations where somebody's just going back and forth, interrupting you, and you have to check them. Let me know in the comments below. I will absolutely do another video and talk more into it and into this topic in more detail. But the most important thing I want you to know is if you are interrupted in a meeting, this is a public interruption. You have to address it. If not, your executive presence will take a major hit, and you do not want that. So let me see who else has joined us. Oh, Pro BTC, welcome back. So Pro BTC said, learn to control emotions is a big thing on being an adult. Yes, absolutely. It is huge. Pro BTC, there's plenty of people that are adults that do not do this. There's a lot. Look at the world today. Look at the leaders today. Yes, so controlling emotions is very important. This is something that it's difficult to teach because there's a certain amount of self-regulation you have to have, and you only are able to develop this through experience and through learning. There's different ways to control your frustrations or your anger. I talk about this on a couple videos on my channel. I have to think about which ones that I've spoken about this about, because I talk about this often. I know we had one person that talked about they would punch a wall, they would kick a wall or something like that. So we talked about how you can just, not do that. There's different things you can do to control your emotions, but it starts in here first, because people are going to say things to you that are going to trigger you, they're going to make you mad, and they know how to make you mad, but it's the way you respond. I don't want anyone on my channel to respond in a very passive way like, oh, okay. No, I want you to respond in a way that shows that you see what's going on and that you're going to address it accordingly. And so you want to make sure that you are presenting yourself as the executive, as the leader, not the person that's going to be passive and just let people walk over them. That is something I don't want for any of my followers. I do not want that for you. And if you're subscribed to the channel, you know that. I want you to be very empowered, and I want you to communicate at that higher level than your peers. So when those situations come up, because they do as leaders, where it is very contentious, it might be very frustrating, and you may be mad, really mad, there's still a way that you can conduct yourself to say your point. The way that you can control those situations when they become heated, like we talked about a bit earlier, is to adjust your tone of voice. People will pay attention to you depending on your tone of voice. If you normally speak in one type of voice all the time and you suddenly go up or you suddenly go down, people are going to wonder like, what's going on? And they're going to want to listen to you. So when you have those contingent situations, your tone of voice is critically important, and your eye contact as well, and your facial expressions as well. You could have someone giving you a hard time, and if you are communicating with them with a straight face, your straight face says a lot. And sometimes it can be very difficult to hold a straight face. I tell my clients in a private one-on-one coaching session when we work together, we practice this. We have to practice your straight face. You need to know what your straight face is. You need to know what your happy face is. You need to know what your not happy face is. You need to know what your somewhat happy face is, and you need to know your resting face. These are things that I talk with my clients about and help them to understand and master. So when they're in those meetings, they can automatically put the face on that they need to have on for the meeting. If it's a situation where someone is just being mean, straight face. It might be difficult, but you need to practice having a straight face. Sometimes when we're in those situations, it's awkward, right? It's awkward sometimes when you're in very challenging situation or someone's interrupting you. And sometimes our first default is to smile. But if you're smiling and someone's interrupting you, then you're either doing one or two things. If you're not saying excuse me and stopping it then, and you are only smiling, then you are basically telling that person in the entire room you're okay with that person interrupting you. And that's not what you want to do. That's definitely not what you want to do if you are trying to build yourself as a leader and you're trying to establish your authority, your expertise, and you're trying to establish your executive presence. So these are things that we talk about a lot on my channel, talk about a lot in my program called The Real Executive Woman, and we also talk about it in my one-on-one executive strategy sessions. If you're interested and you need some support with handling these very complex situations, then contact me in the comments below. So ProBTC said, yes, exactly right. And ProBTC said, go, girl, go. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. And if you have any questions at all as it relates to this topic, feel free to let me know. I appreciate your support and being here on the channel. I definitely want to learn some more from you in terms of, I think Bitcoin is what we talked about last time. So if you all are new to the channel, we had a bit of a dialogue about Bitcoin with ProBTC. So really appreciate that. Because it's something that we've talked about on the channel briefly, and so it's good to have people from different industries be present because we can always tie into communication and leadership with anything that's going on, especially as it relates to diversifying your income and being able to develop your income outside of your one main position that you may have, which a lot of times leaders do. And we talked about this with ProBTC before. So appreciate you being here and being supportive, and always really happy to have you be present on the channel also. Okay, if you all do not have any additional questions, I appreciate you so much. Appreciate your support and just being here with me live today. I have been doing a lot with YouTube, as many of you know. We've been busy with the lives, and so I am just really excited to be able to be a part of your journey anywhere that you are. If you like this content, feel free to subscribe. If you have any colleagues, friends, family that are trying to really elevate themselves as leaders, this is the place where they're going to get real strategies, real advice, and real scenarios. I'm not going to be talking about a lot of fluff, about theories and hypotheses and leadership models. I will share with you what really happens as a leader. And a lot of times there's coaches here that are in these type of situations that do not have that real world experience. So they speak from what they have experienced with other people that they've worked with, but they actually haven't dealt with it with themselves, which is the reason why I have a bit of a different, unique type of approach, because I've actually been in these situations. Like, I've actually been in very friendly conversations. I've been in very contentious conversations where I've had that banter back and forth, and I've had to shut it down and be able to check the person and respond the exact way I'm showing you right now. And this is something where it's hard to do. That's why I'm here to support you on your journey and help you be able to do that. Okay, so ProBTC said, learn to trade guys investment as well. Yes, absolutely. It definitely is. And you want to invest in yourself. You can invest in yourself by learning. Knowledge is one of the best things that you can do to invest in yourself, to grow and develop. But there's only but so much knowledge you can do before you have to take action. So there has to be some action. You have to have some movement. You don't want to be that person that just watches and watches and watches videos, and you don't take that action to say, you know what, I need to make that change. I need to go ahead and do some more active investing, or I need to schedule an executive strategy session. I need to really focus on myself and make those movements in my life. So definitely investing is important, as ProBTC said. Make sure as you're investing, make sure you're actively doing something. You can learn as much as you can, but at some point, if you really want to start to see that growth, there has to be some action to it. Don't wait. The longer you wait, the more it will cost you. It may not cost you financially. It could cost you financially, but it may cost you mentally. It may cost you your career. It may cost you just your sanity. There's so many risks and costs that are factored into when you delay making that decision to make that next step in your career or in your financial career to help you get out of whatever situation that you are in. So I appreciate you all for being here today, as always. And for the remainder of this week, I will still be here live in the evenings. I have several topics. I've done a couple polls on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and then also on YouTube. If you have not filled them out, please do. It helps me to gauge what I want to share with y'all as it relates to live content that will help you go to that next level in your careers. One of the topics that came up was hard conversations. It actually came up here on YouTube, and I have a couple other topics that I'm waiting to see what everyone says, and we'll dive a bit more into those. I hope you all have a fantastic day and evening and etc. And Pro BTC said one more thing. Bitcoin tagged 106K. Bitcoin is not a joke, guys. Yes, so I know Bitcoin is at its journey, right? It's at its journey from being Bitcoin and then going up and then going down and then going up. So it sounds like it's on the up now. So that's great. That's fantastic. And Pro BTC, I appreciate you so much for mentioning that. So that is very, 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 very helpful. All right, so I'm looking forward to talking to you all in the next live video. If you have any questions, let me know. Contact me on any platform. I'm here on YouTube. You can send me a message. If you have something specific you want to talk to me about, or you want to schedule an executive strategy session, reach out to me at Dr. Jacinta Lamantai on LinkedIn. It's in the description below. And also at Excite Excellence on Instagram. It's in the description below as well. I hope you all have a fantastic day or evening, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.